All right. So again, my name is Nichole Huff. I am an assistant professor and extension specialist in the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension here at UK. I'm in the Family Sciences Department and, in the specialization of family finance and resource management. And today's topic is just one that I love because it is one I resonate with for sure, as I am a working parent as well. All right, so if I can get my screen to advance. I love this image because if you are a parent, chances are good you either were asked as a kid or heard as a kid, or repeat this to your parents, to your children. But, money doesn't grow on trees. I've heard it, I have said it, and now I understand as a parent of three. I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an almost 4-year-old. And so my kids span the gamut as well. And, helping them understand the value of a dollar and how that dollar got to be, and how that helps our household function is really an important topic because, it's important for them to understand that money doesn't appear and things don't appear, and that we have to appreciate what we have. Not just so it will make our lives a little simpler, as a parent, but so that they can grow into adults who have healthy attitudes towards money, and so that they can have responsibility and financial responsibility as they enter, the real world. And so that is, one of the reasons why, as parents, we discipline our children so that we can teach them self-discipline. And financial discipline is also one of those strong skill sets that we want to cultivate in our kids. And so, while unfortunately we can't really grow money trees, we can plant the seeds for those financial literacy behaviors that will keep growing as your children age and as they become adults who may become parents themselves, but will become functioning members of our economy. And so when we teach children financial literacy skills, it has trickle down effects because, again, children age into adults. Most often adults who place importance on teaching financial literacy, develop more financial literacy skills themselves as well. And that strengthens our economy, which is so important as we look to right now, especially in the post-COVID era, as we look for ways to do that. So what we're going to really do over the next 20 minutes or so is we are going to look at financial development across the ages. We're going to break them down by benchmarks that are loosely set to correspond to the financial literacy standards that the state of Kentucky has set within K through 12 education. So we'll look at preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. Those will be our divisions. And then we'll look at learning and cognitive skill development that helps children be able to process this information, as well as practical application. So earning, spending, saving, and some of those practical concepts. All right, so one of the programs that we run here with Extension and Family Finance and Resource Management is Money Habitudes. And so what Money Habitudes are this combination of our habits and attitudes. And most things in life, if you think back to some of the personality traits that you have, some of the habits that you have, or attitudes towards any of a multitude of things, you can likely trace their roots back to your childhood. Well, the same is true for money. And so I'd love, if you do not have to share this, but if you'll think back to the household that you grew up in, and so what were your parents or guardians or grandparents or whoever raised you, what were their attitudes towards money? And can you see how that's influenced you and your spending habits, your saving habits? Maybe you are a spender. Do you pay for things with cash or credit? Are you a number cruncher? Are you really, really tight? Are you a big investor? Are you a couponer? How did your childhood affect your money habitudes? And then how is the household that you are running, how is that affecting your kids and maybe their habits and attitudes towards money, towards spending and saving? And so if you're interested in learning more about your money habitudes, contact me. I think I see Kelly on here. Kelly May is our Senior Associate for Family Finance and Resource Management, but we will connect you with your county agent or with someone at the university who can help you take an online quiz to determine your money habitude. But when we can identify some of these sources, we can, better, cultivate some of our spending and saving habits. Because like I mentioned, earlier, sometimes it's easy to wait until we feel bad to get our checkup and then work on some of those lifestyle behaviors that produce that discipline. And we want to reverse that mindset. We don't want, especially our kids, but anybody, but we don't want them to wait until there's a problem to resolve it. We want to prevent those problems before they arise. And financial health is much the same way. We want you have to check in on your finances and you have to exercise good habits daily so that you don't end up like this poor little piggy bank with the broken glasses. And that's important to convey. And that's really at the heart of why the financial literacy standards were kind of reassessed and launched here. This has been the first academic year where these standards have been put in place for entering high school freshmen. So this class that will graduate in 4 years will be expected to possess a certain amount of financial literacy upon graduation. I'm not going to link to it now, but you'll get these PowerPoints. If you're interested, there's a hyperlink. And you can go check out what those financial literacy standards are and what the different benchmarks are for kindergarten, 4th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade. And so because you can't wait until your student is a senior to develop these skills, it really does start early. Okay, so let's dive in. Like I said, we're going to kind of divide this up along those general benchmarks. So we're going to start with the preschool years, and I actually have a child in three of these areas. So again, I come from much a point of relatability as we are as parents trying to, help our kids understand the value of a dollar. And so this first group, the preschool years, that's really for, 5 and under. And so in this learning category, once children can identify numbers and begin counting and then are beginning to understand place value, you can connect those concepts to financial literacy and to money. Kind of which is more, 1 or 3, but simple basic concepts of ranking and order and conservation skills, which will develop more in the elementary years. But once they can identify numbers, that is a huge marker to go ahead and tie that into finances. Begin and by introducing money, paper money. And I know we haven't, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, haven't spent a lot of paper money. But whether you have a play set, whether you have board games like Monopoly that might have some paper and coin money, or you have some in your home, but introducing them to the different coins and explaining, what their cash value is, explaining paper money and the value of that money. And then most probably importantly, beginning to introduce the idea that things cost money. And so, if you are grocery shopping online. So maybe you do your shopping on an app, or maybe you go into the store if you feel, again, post-COVID, we're changing kind of the rules and how we do things. But it's important that preschoolers and kindergartners see their parents or guardians spend money, and so that they understand that things cost and that these paper dollars or coins represent something. And so again, and then tying that into, the idea of work, that you work to earn money, and that from everything from your toys to the food that we eat to the house that we live in, it costs money. And so that you begin to introduce this cycle of earning and financial responsibility and money and value. And so many preschoolers don't have a lot of ways to earn money, but they may start to lose their teeth. And so if you're a family who does the tooth fairy, they might get a couple of dollars there, birthdays or holidays, or if they do chores. But ways they can earn money or ways they can save money. And this is a good time to make sure they have a piggy bank. And so it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a jar that you help them to decorate. We also sponsor a piggy bank decorating contest through our local counties each year, as we look at financial literacy and Kentucky Saves, and as we celebrate spending and saving. And so again, just beginning to introduce these concepts, letting kids see you shop, and maybe even letting them hand a cashier $5, or letting them swipe the debit card or the credit card, and then but talking through it. And so I'm a big proponent of narrative parenting. That means that we explain what we do in terms that our kids can understand, and that, because when our kids don't have words for their actions, they'll fill in the gaps. And so we want to help give them words and explain things and demystify and decode things. And so, when they see a parent using a debit or a credit card, they may begin to develop this idea that it is this magical card full of, endless money, that it is a direct tie to that money tree. And so it's important that you, again, that you say what it is. Well, this card links to mommy's bank account that holds all of the money that I get from working my job. And so when I swipe this card, it takes money out of my account. And so we begin to narrate the things that we do and our financial practices. All right. And so at each of these life stage, I've got just an idea suggestion. And so playing store is a great idea for a hands-on activity with a preschooler or kindergartner or young child in your life. Summertime is a great thing for lemonade stands. So whether you help them really set up a lemonade stand, again, COVID restrictions, I'll put that disclaimer out there. But, or you just play store with them in the house. You let them, again, get out one of those games that has some play money and let them set up a shop and come shopping in their store, and just help them engage in interactions around, financial exchanges. Okay. All right, so the next benchmark is the elementary school years. And so this is roughly the ages of 6 to 10, or 5 to 11, but really the ages of kids in first grade through 5th grade. And it's here that that those concepts of conservation and measurement and logic, and beginning to, develop concrete thinking. But this is also an age where abstract thinking can be a little tricky. And so developing hypothesis can be tricky at this age because it's not tangible. And so elementary school age children need tangibility. They need to be able to hold things and see things with their eyes. And the other will come, the abstract thought will come. And so with financial skill development during this age, they may think that four quarters is more than $1 because four is more than one. And so it's helping them, if they haven't already, learn names for coins and dollar bills, and also what they represent, and then help them with math, with real world math, to be able to know that four quarters equals $1 and why, because 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25 equals 100. And so taking some of the skills that they're learning in school, following along with them, and helping them practice, using them. This is also a good time to talk about financial and family resource management. So it's not just about the money, but it's also about taking care of the things that we have. And so how to make our, not to waste things, not to waste food or soap or clothes or toys, that we take care of what we have, that we, when we invest in what we have, it lasts longer because we have paid for these things and we want them to last. And so, ways to do this: cleaning rooms and responsibility, and putting away toys, and developing chores, a chore pattern. These are good things to teach, again, responsibility for caring for our things, and, being responsible. And also concepts like borrowing, the difference between borrowing and buying, and that when we borrow something, we take care of it, we give it back. When we buy something, it is ours to keep. And so some of these concepts that can translate into later life, like things like renting versus owning, leasing versus owning, and those types of things. But introducing those, narrating those concepts at an early age is important. And so, again, letting children, elementary school age children, shop with you at stores, helping them set small financial goals. So if it's a toy that they want, and needs and wants, which we'll get to in just a second, but helping them see and research what that toy cost, and then come up with a plan to save for that. How many teeth will they need to lose? How many birthdays will they need to have? What chores can they do to earn that money? And then when they have earned that money, allow them to go to the store and make that transaction themselves. And then, again, reinforce concepts of taking care of it. And then try to, refrain from judgment, even though as a parent, you may not think that silly $5 toy is worth very much, but it allows them to maybe see that it will break later. And then you can talk about, was that a good purchase? Why not? What other things could you save for? But it again goes back to narration. And a good activity for this age group is helping promote those abstract thoughts and making them more concrete. And so introducing this idea of needs and wants, and helping them perhaps do word clouds. And so, get a sheet of paper and divide it into 2 columns and have them draw pictures or to write words of what are my needs and what are my wants. And so, shelter, food, clothing, our basic needs versus, well, if I want this really fancy technology, or if I want, my kids they're loving Starbucks. I'm not sure where they got that love from. Definitely wasn't me. But I've had to rein that in a little bit, because with 3, and they each get a $5 Frappuccino, I can drop $20 at Starbucks really quickly. We're going to not judge me there with the caffeine and the chocolate and the sugar and all of that. But as a treat, it can still get super expensive very quickly. And so, especially with my older 2, that is a want, clearly. It is one that we have nipped in the bud very quickly. And if they want it, they can save their money and they can purchase that themselves. And so, what are some of those needs and wants, and helping them see that, as their caregiver, you can help provide for their needs, but sometimes their wants, they may have to make a plan for, and they may have to save and budget for, and to introduce those concepts. Okay, so the third financial literacy benchmark is the middle school years. And it looked like several of you on here have middle schoolers as well. And so these are where those that abstract thought is becoming a little easier, and to strategically plan, to exercise logic. While they don't always exercise logic, they are developing the skills that they need to. And so it's a great job as parents for us to help them exercise those logical muscles. And in financial literacy, ways to do this are to again, have them be more intentional about how they are earning their money and how they are spending their money. And so, giving them opportunities to do some on the spot real math. And so when you're out with your kids and there's a 20% off sale, having them figure out, well, which item is more if this one is 20% off. Having them help you figure out tips at restaurants, having you getting their help figuring out what a tax would be on something if you are purchasing an item, but giving them a chance to connect the concepts they're learning in school to real world execution and letting them practice that. Also, this is a good time, if you haven't already, to do some kind of allowance or some way for them to earn money, because they're not legally old enough to work, but they can do, neighborhood things. Like many families will employ a neighborhood child to cut the grass or to maybe babysit children, especially a responsible 13 or 14-year-old. And so there may be more ways that they can earn money intentionally. And also, again, with the narration, don't underestimate your child's ability to understand real world concepts. Because when we have children who are never introduced to real world concepts, they become adults who don't know how to navigate real world events. And so, I am newish to UK. I am back and a part of the faculty, but I moved here over the summer last year. And so right in the middle of COVID. And so we are renting and in the process of buying, which is really exciting. Right now, it's also frustrating. But as we've taken our kids along on this journey, especially our older two, who are both in middle school, we have explained things like lending options and why this is our range for our houses, and about what it means to save for a down payment and what are closing costs. And we have had to really operationalize those concepts. And they may not get it, they kind of nod their head, but they are beginning to understand that there is a reason why we are doing what we're doing, and that it is complicated. But I'm narrating that so that they can begin to understand some of these concepts. And again, houses just don't appear. It takes a lot of work to get into them. And so in contracts and different things. Also, a good concept to convey at the middle school years is this idea of opportunity cost, that you can't do anything. And when you make a choice, it usually means that to do one thing or to have one thing means you forgo this other option. And so explaining what opportunity costs are. And maybe my favorite activity is this one, to do with middle schoolers. And this activity, we have one here at Extension called How Much Do I Really Cost? And there's also a link to one that, again, will be in the PDF that you receive. But this one is one that my daughter has done this year in her careers class. And I just thought it was great because middle school is a really good time to explore what it costs to live. And so, have your child guess what it costs to live, and then help them decode, know what this is, how much it actually costs. And so my 8th grader, had this activity a few weeks ago, and it was just one of those, again, as a mama, but as a mama who does financial literacy for a living, it was one of those really proud moments where she said that, they had to to pick a job, and they had to make all these decisions about what kind of lifestyle choices that they wanted to have. And she goes, I really didn't realize how expensive it was to live. And she said we had to choose whether we wanted to go out to a movie once a week, and it would cost this much money, or if we wanted to stay home and read a book for free. And she said, I think I'm going to stay home and read a lot of books. And so, but it was just powerful for her to understand that, again, lifestyle choices matter, and also career choices matter. And so this is a good time to explore with middle schoolers, what they want to be when they grow up, and what are some of the different ways that careers influence our income and our stability. And to talk with them about things like human capital, and the importance of developing a skill or a trade, or getting an education, and different things that can impact our income. It's a really great hands-on activities to have with your kids, or to talk with them about if they're doing similar things in school. Okay, and finally, the last benchmark that we're going to talk about is the high school years. And so we're looking at 14 to 18, 14 to 17, that range that is just preceding adulthood. And unfortunately, our brains don't really develop fully until we are in our mid-20s. And so we can often expect a whole lot out of high schoolers, prior to their brains being ready to balance the information. But we are seeing in high schools that those abstract thoughts, strategic planning, these things are becoming more easier. And it's just, again, we are just there to help shepherd them through development, to help them practice exercising good judgment. This is a good time, if you have not already, to start a checking account with your student. I would suggest starting with your bank, whoever you're banking with, asking your banker what their options are for student checking, and then together with your youth, go in and have, the representative from the bank kind of discuss with them some of the importance, what it means to have a debit card or a checkbook, or the app on their phone, that you talk with them about making secure financial purchases, and how things like identity theft and securing personal information, that they practice logging a checkbook register. You can still get those, by the way. I know we're not going to tell our age by using a checkbook register, but I'm guessing many of you can remember doing that as well. And so in this day of digital banking, it is important, and it's helpful sometimes for kids, for youth, to get an actual physical checkbook register. And whether they keep their money in a piggy bank or in something at your house, or whether they have an account at a bank, but that they physically subtract and add money to that register so that they can compare it to their online bank statements. Because at 14, they can begin working. So your youth may get a real job that has a real paycheck, that you help them read their paycheck stubs, whether it's physical or digital, that they understand taxes and what they go towards, and saving, and different things, but not assuming that we hope that they're learning it in school, but we know that the home is their primary educational institution, and that we want to make sure that we are teaching those concepts, reinforcing them, and then giving them an opportunity to actualize them. And then, this is something that we don't wait till high school to discuss, but this idea of financial peer pressure is a good one to begin talking to with your older middle schooler or high schooler. But in the age of social media, we can get really consumed with our social media status. So used to is our social status. But now that social status is displayed on social media, and influencers, from YouTubers to Instagrammers to TikTokers, but they are sending messages to our kids about what they need and what brands they need, and so we want to make sure we're buffering that, that you have an idea of who your kids' influences are, both in their peer groups as well as their social media influences, and that that you help them explore their true worth. And so it's not finances and tangible things, they can come and go, but that's not where our worth is determined. It's not how our worth is determined. And that if we are hanging around people who base our worth based on those things, then we may want to explore other circles. And so, but having real conversations with your kids about financial peer pressure and how to be a rebel against that it's okay to be your own person, and to not have to get on every mainstream trend. But having those conversations about peer pressure, not just in terms of things like drugs and alcohol and sex and other things that we talk to our kids about, but financial peer pressure as well. And then the activity for this group, more than any other, and hopefully you're building these skills as they go, but this idea of setting SMART goals. So goals that are specific and measurable and that are achievable, realistic, and timed or timely. And so, helping your older teen set a goal. And so maybe they're saving for a car or college education. Maybe they are saving for a senior trip, but have them set a goal and then develop a plan. So how will they earn that? How many, weeks or months do they need to work to do this? Is it achievable? Is it attainable? Helping them to research it. These kids, we should be raising a generation of researchers, because between, Siri and Alexa and Google and, we won't mention ones like Wikipedia, but technology is putting the means to research right in our children's fingertips. And so helping them become critical consumers, learning to price check if there is a tech gadget that they want or a car that they want, and how do you research what is a good investment, and how do you know you're getting a good deal, and then maybe helping them vision that. So creating, a goals collage or some kind of vision board to accompany their goals, so that they can, again, see that we achieve things when we plan for them. All right, so that is it. That is what I have for you. And again, we are working to develop financial literacy because we want to produce children who become adults who can navigate a very complex financial landscape. So I'm happy to have answer any questions you have, point you to resources that I can connect you with, and that's it. So is that